Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fifth edition of the Ravi Sondhi Spirit of Bangalore lecture. Um, this full house tells me that your attachment and love for the city of Bangalore is all enduring. Um, I think all of you are here for your love of the city, some out of attachment to my dad, some under pressure from my sister. And of course, as I discovered the sort of fan following that Aliyeh has, I'm sure this is no pressure at all, Aliyeh. And I believe the Tindi is pretty good. The, the tea and snacks today, incidentally, have been sponsored anonymously by a dear friend of mine who himself lost his dad last year. And he wanted to do this in sort of remembrance of both of our fathers and also out of his love for the city of Bangalore. And I think that is the spirit of Bangalore. Thank you, mate. You know who you are. The theme of belonging to a city or being Bangalore in many ways was personified by my dad. And pardon me if I speak a little bit about him today. He was a partition migrant who moved to Bangalore in the 50s, so he actually opted into the city, unlike many of us who were born here. And the city was most accepting of him, it was rewarding of him. And my dad actually gave back to the city as much as he took from it. And those of you who've known him through his days in Three Aces, Hat-Trick Sports, his association with the Friends Union Cricket Club, and as the sort of lifelong president of the Karnataka Sports Dealers Association, I don't know how he swung that. He was forever the president. It's sort of like Donald Trump in our own residence. But through all of that, I think he gave to the city as much as he did. And I actually wanted my sister to speak about him today, but she's chickened out. She has stage fright, she says. But she's written in 2 lines about my dad that I want to read to you. Papa's presence and time was most relaxing, and his passion for his work and sport, especially cricket, was amazing. A true gentleman, from his attire to being soft-spoken, has left a big impact. This is a very squeaky clean version, by the way, the censored version. My dad had a wild side, especially in the first half of his life, which my sister saw but doesn't want to talk about. Incidentally, Stanley Carvalho, Stan, where are you? Stan, our speaker from last year, forwarded to me an article that Ram Guha had written in the Telegraph about 3 Bangalore institutions. And Ram wrote about K.C. Das, Rangashankara, founded by Arundhati Nag, and Mr. Chiranjeev Singh, who he described as an institution in himself, which is so true, being the cultural ambassador of the city that he is. And in that little forward, we covered all 4 speakers that we've had as part of this series. So, except now we need to have a session on K.C. Das. But we have to sort of archive these lectures, kept the previous 4 lectures online. They're on YouTube. If you'd like to go and have a look, please do. We also this time at Koshi's Where Else ideated, Aliyeh and I, and invited a sort of a crowdsourced little write-in about what it meant to you to be Bangalorean. And we got a tremendous response in just 2 days. And I'm sure Aliyeh is going to talk about some of those responses and comments. But just a quick look at those responses that I got described being Bangalorean as a vibe, a feeling, an etiquette, an embrace. People love it for its people, its trees, its coffee, and its bookshops, for a soft touch that the city has, for being cerebral and for being tolerant. And of course, someone had to say that only we Bangaloreans will call each other Da. And then Chuma put off. So we chuma put off one off at the end, much to the annoyance of friends from other cities. But more seriously, Suresh is here. Suresh wrote a beautiful tribute to a fine Bangalorean who we lost just last week, Harish Padmanabha. And of Harish, Suresh said that for him, Bangalore was not a location but a lifestyle, right? And that's not a lifestyle of pomp and show. For Harish, it was a lifestyle of art appreciation, of a sense of community and a sense of fellowship, which I think is really what being Bangalorean is. Professor Hiremat, who comes down every year from Dharwad, wrote in saying, I am Bangalore myself, which is so beautiful because for many of us who now live away from Bangalore, we are Bangalore. And we hope that the cities that we live and work in under constraints of sort of professional requirements, that those cities would be as accepting of us as Bangalore was of my father. I read this brilliant essay by E.B. White, which he wrote on New York called Here is New York. He actually checked into the Lafayette Hotel in New York and quickly drummed out this brilliant essay, which I would recommend to you. I want to read just 3 lines from here, which in some way tie in with this evening's conversation. And I quote, since my arrival, the greatest air show ever staged in all the world took place in town. I didn't attend, and neither did most of the 8 million other inhabitants, although they say there was quite a crowd. The biggest ocean-going ships on the North Atlantic arrived and departed. I didn't notice them, and neither did most other New Yorkers. I mention these merely to show that New York is peculiarly constructed to absorb almost anything that comes along, without inflicting the event on its inhabitants, so that every event is, in a sense, optional, and the inhabitant is in the happy position of being able to choose their spectacle and so conserve their soul. I think this is, beautifully true of Bangalore as well, because we have dime a dozen big ticket events going. I feel so good because I've never been to the air show. But, being Bangalorean is really not about those calendar events. It's that little gentle nod at a stranger. It's the smell of filter coffee. It's the smell of rain in the afternoon. I think that's really what the soul of the city is. And who better to reconstruct the soul of Bangalore than Aliyeh Rizvi? Aliyeh is a place-based storyteller, a history writer, and a memory archivist. She is the founder of Native Place, a place-making studio that looks to connect people to places more meaningfully through historical storytelling and book publications and histories of the city, of families, and of institutions, one of which was the Bangalore Club at its 150th. She covers local heritage, culture, and looks at the socio-cultural landscape of the city of Bangalore. As a co-founder of the Memory Maps project, a community-based arts intervention, she presents the city as a site of shared experiences and memories in building ownership, belonging, and identity in the city. She is the author of several archival book publication projects and has been a regular contributor to several works, including the Nat Geo Traveler, and is a weekly columnist on Bangalore's local history for the Bangalore Mirror. She was also invited to the Bangalore Tourism Advisory Committee by the Ministry of Tourism, Government of Karnataka. Her blog, A Turquoise Cloud, inspired, I found, by a Duke Ellington track, is a fine resource on Bangalore and its sort of subcultures. Aliyeh was born in Bangalore. She started out at Baldwin Girls. She then left to live in Shabad, near Gulbarga, or Kalburgi, shall I say, in her second standard, as her father was in the public sector. Her grandparents always lived in Bangalore, so she was very much Bangalorean through and through. She returned to do her PUC at Cotton Girls, and then a BA in Psychology, Sociology, and Literature at Jyoti Nivas, and a post-graduation at Bangalore University in Communication. Prem, where's Prem Koshi? Prem. Prem tells me that Aliyeh was in her first play with him, Abe Burrows' Cactus Flower. Is that right, sir? So Aliyeh is also a theatre person, as we know. And her family's roots in Bangalore are deeply embedded. Hold your breath. She is the great grandniece of Sir Mirza Ismail, the Diwan of Mysore. And if that wasn't enough, she is also a descendant of Aga Ali Asgar. She is the great granddaughter of Mir Hamza Hussain, who was Diwan to Sir Albion Banerjee, and his son, that is Aliyeh's grandfather, Colonel Mir Sarfraz Hussain, OBE, was the first Indian commanding officer of the 18th Battalion of the Madras Regiment after its amalgamation into the Indian Army. This infantry regiment, in fact, fought as part of the British Army against the Japanese during the Second World War, when Colonel Hussain, Aliyeh's grandfather, was taken as a prisoner of war for 2 long years. And then he was involved in that process in building railroads and what would later become the Changi Airport in Singapore. And in a sort of a continuation, we're delighted that Aliyeh's family is here, Mrs. Rizvi is here, and on behalf of my sister, Sundar, Ria, and David, may I welcome Aliyeh's family warmly to this event. As also welcome all of you to this evening, which is our love letter on Valentine's Day to the city of Bangalore. So it is with great anticipation and joy that I invite on stage Aliyeh Rizvi.
So, good evening, everyone. When we were deciding on a date for today, I was apprehensive about attendance on the 14th of February, and Aditya said, "Oh, people will come for love of Bangalore." And this rings true. So, thank you all for being here on what is now a day dedicated to love of the city. And like in most truly loving connections, we will acknowledge this evening the challenges and frustrations that accompany this love, despair as we attempt to live in the city, the tensions and the conflicts that define our fears for its present and its future, even as we overlook its flaws and make loving allowances for its struggles. Where is Aditya? Okay. I am extremely honored and overwhelmed, honestly, to be speaking here today, the 5th in line of, thank you, several eminent Bangaloreans I deeply respect and admire. The honor has many dimensions to it. First and foremost, the Ravi Sondhi Spirit of Bangalore lectures, dedicated, as Aditya said, to the memory of his father, Mr. Ravi Sondhi, a well-known and much respected Bangalorean. It's also a mark of Aditya's love for Bangalore and his great generous gesture in creating this meaningful landmark event in this beautiful heritage space. This give back is a platform that supports and enables a sharing of what the city means to us. Thank you, Aditya, for this invitation and this opportunity to share what Bangalore means to me and how it has shaped who I am. So let me begin with a short account of my own search for home and identity and belonging. In 2014, I was writing a story on Bailakuppe, the largest Tibetan settlement in India that was initially set up in the 1960s near Kushalnagar, not far from Mysuru. While in conversation with the Geshe, that's Thupten Chorak, Geshe being a high-ranking academic degree in the Gelug tradition, I asked him how his people had managed to create the essence of a high mountain life, including monasteries from the 4 Buddhist traditions, on this flat, dusty land. He replied, "It's not about how we live the mountain life near Mysuru anymore, but how we will live in the mountains when we return to Tibet. Most residents were born here and have never been to Tibet. This is now our home." He went on then to speak of his lost homeland with reverence, nostalgia, sadness, grief, and acceptance. A few weeks later, I was writing a piece for my weekly column in the Bangalore Mirror many years ago and was interviewing the senior residents of Sindhi colony Coxtown about their journey from Hyderabad, Sindh to Bangalore somewhere in the 1950s. Since the physical markers of their lives there no longer existed, home was now an imagined landscape, spoken of with sentiment and longing, and rebuilt with memory and imagination. Many of them shared their sense of loss, feeling helpless, powerless, even rootless and angry, not knowing where they belonged at the time, and above all, there was grief. Feelings that we now map to the psychological effects of displacement. It was then that I realized that the physical markers of my own life in this city no longer existed. I too had lost access to what I once recognized as home. Bangalore had already collapsed under JCB excavators and concrete mixers in response to real estate demands in the 1990s. By 2010, it had succumbed to a relentless process of erasure, imposed upon by a new post-internet boom that seemed to have crushed it under the boot of the giant robo from the 1970s television series. My quiet residential neighborhood changed when offices, bikes, and cars crowded what was now a designated mixed-use area. The relatively flat, 3 floors only city of my childhood, dominated by the public utility building, had become a high-rise dystopia to me, and South Parade or MG Road had become the central business district or the CBD at the time. The little corner grocery shops were going, the public park in my area had shrunk, the tank bed now was a hockey stadium, local filter coffee outlets had closed, and multinational chains had taken their place with espressos and lattes and Americanos. It is a familiar story of change and gentrification, but this doesn't make losing local character any less heartbreaking. So now, with not much physical context available, I was having a very hard time at work convincing newcomers that urban Bangalore, Bengaluru as we know it today, was really more than 20 or 30 years old. It's over 500 years old, in fact. So I struggled to understand what part of this new city I identified with enough to say I belong to it. I realized then that the displaced communities that I'd spoken to earlier mirrored my inner feelings. Like them, I too felt a deep sense of loss, helplessness, powerlessness, a vague rootlessness now and then, and anger at non-consensual change. I've often been asked if I'm anti-change. No, I'm not anti-change. I just want to have a say in what happens to my city. And a displacement anxiety shared by many Bangaloreans who I found online at various forums reported feeling like an outsider or stranger in their city today. But unlike those displaced communities, I could not build an imagined landscape of the past or nostalgicize in my mind because I had to confront a significantly altered city every day that I stepped out of my door. The lost childhood environment. I began to wonder if this is why when old-time Bangaloreans get together, we speak so much about the past. The good old days, the days without fans, the empty roads, the game of 7 tiles that were played on them, etc., etc., etc. Was this sentimental rambling, that is the sharing of memories actually, that we are often accused of, a coping mechanism for loss and maybe unacknowledged grief? This retelling of the city over and over and over again. And maybe during the retelling and sharing of memories, were we trying to dwell in the familiar, a place now long gone, and restore to us a sense of belonging to it, just for a little while? Because just like that, it had gone from a pensioner's paradise and a garden city to a startup city, India's fastest growing city, again, etc., 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 to also now being a remembered city. So today's theme is in fact my work on belonging, ownership, and identity as a place-based storyteller and memory archivist. I began in 2010, over 15 years ago, when writing about the city was not as fashionable as it is today. I first started to walk, take photographs, blog, document the city of my childhood, that was also my home, in an effort to know it better. My work then is now a response to the city I grew up in that disappeared before my eyes. It is located at the intersection of three disciplines: history, that is our memories and stories of the city; cultural geography, how we inhabit, own, and claim it; and environmental psychology, which is how environment or place, in this case, the city, shapes our experiences, behaviors, and sense of well-being in it. It's also influenced by the principles of psychogeography, something I discovered a couple of years ago. That is the psychology of our geographies. How our brain perceives its immediate environment and what we call place in more concrete terms, and our emotional or feeling-based responses to where we live. I don't think in the process of inhabiting the city on a daily basis, we actually spend time thinking about how we feel when we are in it, how we feel about it. So psychogeography is the subjective and often unconscious ways in which we interact with, experience, and interpret our surroundings. So to quote the American urban planner Kevin Lynch, nothing is experienced by itself, but always in relation to its surroundings, the sequence of events leading up to it, the memory of past experiences. So from the outset, walking was essential to my practice: information and material gathering. Many of you have heard this before. I use 3 techniques when I do this, which is the lost arts of lingering, loafing, and loitering. And it's always amazing to see how the city speaks when we are quiet and still. So as I walk, people offer stories and they share memories as gifts in exchange for engaging with the city. So walking, storytelling, that's sharing, create a context. Context provides meaning. Engagement assigns a value. Value prompts a feeling and connection. And somewhere in all this, I stumble upon ways to use historical storytelling as a tool, that is memory and imagination, to build connection and belonging and archive this city. So now we come to what we want to discuss and explore this evening, which is belonging. How does local character define us as individuals and bind us together as a collective? How does individual memory contribute to the creation of collective memory as Bangaloreans and present the city as a site of shared experiences and existence? How do these shared experiences of the city reinforce a sense of belonging, connection, and build community? And what, therefore, do we feel about Bangalore, about being Bangaloreans? Is this belonging defined for you by birth, or contribution, identification, ownership and claim, a common language, or just a love for the city? Many of you generously gave your time to answer this question this week. What makes you a Bangalorean? So I would now like to build this together from your sharing and see if we can find a collective articulation of identity and belonging in the city. These stories that you shared have been added to a personal project of mine called Bangalore, a Remembered City, which is a memory archive for the city that I have been managing for some years now. Many of the words that came up in the contributions were easy, quiet, unhurried, no hustle culture, warmth, community. And so I'm going to quote story 1, story 2. So story 1 is, I have friends from all religions, all cultures. I am reasonably laid back and I live and I let live. So I am a Bangalorean because ever since we moved to Bangalore, we knew there was no going back. This city gently claims you through its trees, its rain, its unhurried mornings, and the quiet warmth of its people. It isn't just where we live. It has become home. So much has changed. This is another story. But I hold on tight, or try to remnants of how the city has shaped me. Most notably, the sense of community. We grew up surrounded by one that extended our tailors, shop owners, barbers, and more. I love that I can still have bits of it. Another story, easygoing, intellectual, and expansive worldview right from my couch at home, since there's no place on earth that I'd rather live in. And finally, I'm a Bangalorean because no hang-ups. Ability to accept people from different walks of life. Equally comfortable in a darshini and a lounge. So Bangalore's identity is not a singular one, as you can see. It is the outcome of many layers of interactions between people and place that have been built over 500 years and more. As the Chinese-born American geographer and writer Yifu Tuan says, history has depth and time bestows value. This identity has emerged from a small town ethos and a laid-back neighborhood culture that merged the social with the spatial. Like elsewhere, where we come from in the city is an instant identity marker, the experience of place that contributed to who we were as being from the old city, the 19th century Richmond town, Cleveland town, Cox town, new extensions of the early 1900s such as Chamrajpet, Malleshwaram, Baswangudi, then Fraser town, Jayanagar, the industrial extension of Rajaji Nagar, and then even Whitefield that was set up as a Eurasian and Anglo-Indian settlement on its outskirts in 1882 and is now a part of the city. Tuan describes the creation of place as an organized world of meaning, while another architectural theorist, Christian Norberg Schulz, Norwegian, part of the modernist movement in architecture and associated with architectural phenomenology, says, he explains belonging in a very famous article written in 1976 called The Phenomenon of Place. He says, when man dwells, he is simultaneously located in space and exposed to a certain environmental character. The two psychological functions involved may be called orientation and identification. To gain an existential foothold, man has to be able to orient himself. He has to know where he is. But he also has to identify himself with the environment. That is, he has to know how he is in a certain place. So identification and orientation, so essential to a sense of belonging, are primary aspects of man's being in this world. He adds that true belonging presupposes both psychological functions, but they need to be fully developed. To belong to a place, therefore, means to have an existential foothold in a concrete, everyday sense. And so, here are, from all your contributions, a retracing and reconstruction of some of these existential footholds that we share that determine how we are and who we are and where we are in this place called Bangalore. I'm going to trace this chronologically so that it's just easier for us to follow the story. So the carving out of urban Bangalore in the 16th century as a settlement from the local natural landscape of thorny bush, thicket, scrub forest, and rocky outcrops is now an oft-repeated origin story. But the settlement itself is of significance to us because it attracted to it traders, merchants, and artisan communities from across the region and even faraway Saurashtra in the west, thus contributing to the beginnings of a rich multiculturalism that defines us even today. The words cosmopolitan, pluralistic are also popular in context to the city, along with a soft but firm assertion that the quintessential Bangalorean is generally multilingual. So, here's the story. Bangaloreans are multilingual. As T.P. Kailasam remarked, I converse in Tamil with Tamilians, in Telugu with Teluguites, and in English with Kannadigas. Another old Bangalorean shared with me on Facebook, it has given me something very precious, tongues. So many dialects. The richness of each language's idioms is so fascinating and engaging. No language feels alien here. We flow easily through many southern languages, including Dakhini. Another story, being a Christian who grew up in the heart of Malleshwaram and never feeling like an outsider. Bangalore is loving bisibele bhat as much as beef fry. Pluralism not being a performance, but an everyday part of life of the city and how we interacted with each other. The next story. What makes me Bangalorean is the warmth of its people and the beautiful blend of tradition with modern life. From peaceful Agyari mornings to lively evenings in the city, Bangalore feels like home in every way. Again, cosmopolitan, international, while being Indian with a general sense of bonhomie towards all which sets the Bangalorean in a very different league altogether. The ability to switch languages depending on the people one is interacting with, an unwritten code of etiquette which makes someone in another city ask, where are you from? You're different. I've also heard from people in other cities that, gosh, you Bangaloreans are so real. I still don't know what that means, but real is good. Another story, multilingual hybrid, part of an environmentally wildlife conscious populace of a learning conscious city. That's Bangalore for me. I know I'm a Bangalorean, this is mine, because my Bengaluru is a quirky city. Some of you have heard this before. I love telling it again, so I'm sorry, but you'll have to listen to it one more time. I am prepared to get drenched in a downpour 1 minute. As I turn the corner, I walk into sunshine. Like my cousin brother once said, and I hope everyone understands Dakhini, "Mai barish mein bhigle ko gaya, mai dhoop mein sukle ko aaya." I swear I have seen the line of rain separating KC Das from the LIC building as I turn the corner. I understand we have a generosity of spirit, of giving and sharing, but we also do know by do. We speak with our hands a lot. An upright thumb is a question mark. A kai stretched out horizontally says, "Go to hell." And a vertically extended one stops traffic. Had your tiffin often means hello. We always want to know where you are put up, and the answer is often on the backside of somewhere. There are no T junctions in this city. Everything is always a dead end right, no matter where you may be going. It's a dead end right. We have rich subcultures, the legacy of many migrant populations who made the city their home, a vibrant street food culture, a unique stand and eat darshani culture, and we happily serve over a dozen rice bhats in assorted colors and flavors. I am a part of its pub rock culture, and I obsess about the city's weather and also the traffic culture. Traffic city is a great excuse when late, but please tell me, which city isn't crammed at peak hour? I am proud that we are a cool, brainy startup city, and we even have a brain museum to prove it. So attachment or the feeling of belonging to a place is seldom acquired in passing. It is a function of time and engagement. And yet we can also fall in love at first glimpse of a mountain, a forest, a city, a park, a bookstore, or a cafe. Direct encounters, that is engagement, intensifies a feeling. In our context, identification means to become friend with a particular environment. But for us in the city, this is not a natural environment. It includes man-made things such as streets and houses. So the German-born American architect Gerhard Kallmann, when visiting his native Berlin at the end of the Second World War, after many years of absence, wanted to see the house where he had grown up. The house had disappeared over the years, and Mr. Kallmann felt somewhat lost. Then he suddenly recognized the typical pavement of the sidewalk and the floor that he had played on as a child, and he experienced a strong feeling of having returned home. Coming back to Norberg Schulz, he tells us that our relationship with objects of identification is most often developed during childhood. As we get acquainted with our environment, we develop a perceptual schemata that determines all future experiences. The schemata comprises universal structures that are interhuman as well as locally determined and culturally conditioned structures. Evidently, every human being has to possess this schemata of orientation as well as identification that contributes to the defining of our world and our place in it. In an evocative passage in his book, Vision of the Land, V.S. Naipaul gives an immigrant character a voice filled with longing and memories of home. They went back, but they came back. You know, you are born in a place and you grow up there. You get to know the trees and plants. You will never know any trees and plants like that. You grow up watching a guava tree, say. You know that browny green bark peeling like paint. You try to climb that tree. You know after you climb it a few times, the bark gets smooth, and so slippery you can't get a grip on it. You get that ticklish feeling in your foot. Nobody has to teach you what a guava is. You go away. You ask, what is that tree? Someone will tell you, an elm. You see another tree. Someone will tell you, that's an oak. Good, you know them, but it isn't the same. Here, you wait for the pui to flower 1 week in a year and you don't even know that you are waiting. All right, you go away, but you will come back. Where you born, man, you born. The influences, this is a story, that create my identity of being Bangalorean comes from the historical stories that I'm proud to inherit. The landlocked benefits of the low-lying garrison in the valley, the flair of the British cantonment, the cerebral comes up many times, arts and academic culture that old Bangaloreans possess. The space and time it offered helped me explore my own culture, music, nature, and adventure. Until here, the changing times didn't affect my growing identity as things were slow. We were laid back also because there was nothing much to do. With the tech culture and globalization of Bangalore, I now have accelerated FOMO, resulting in adaptiveness becoming a new part of my identity. And as a revolt, I resort to only hanging out with cultural and nostalgic people, places, and events. So proud, healthy, cerebral, expressive, curious, adaptive, and disgruntled is the Bangalorean I am now. Many of my childhood memories are dominated by customary visits to Chickpet with visiting friends and family members, walking from one shop to another and finally being overwhelmed by rolls of fabric and sari lengths of shimmering silk. By the 18th century, silk cocoons imported from China by Tipu established the beginnings of a silk industry, and extensive support from the Maharajas of Mysore in the centuries that followed put Mysuru on the map. Mysore silk, sold exclusively at KSIC outlets, became the first GI tagged product in the vicinity when it got the geographical indication, that's the GI, in 2005-2006. So I want to mention this because Mysore silk, Mysore sandal soap, so much of this was a part of my life growing up, and I think just having it around me has also, till today, Mysore sandal soap tells me, that the fragrance of Mysore sandal soap tells me that I'm a Bangalorean. When the East India Company forces under Lord Cornwallis stormed the gates of Bangalore in the Third Anglo-Mysore War, 1791, they mentioned bales of cotton and cloth in every direction, indicating a great manufacturing town. By the late 1800s, the Pete, or the Old City area, was filled with numerous textile weaving, dyeing, and trading communities who influenced place names such as Santusa Pete, Patnul Pete, Saurashtra Pete, Darzi Pete, and Kaban Pete, where the handlooms of the Devanga community are now being replaced by power looms. Spatial identity and belonging, social identity and belonging are integrated in this city, so I will go between the two from time to time. Many of us may know that during the American Civil War, when cotton supplies from the US were cut off, British textile mills looked to India and Egypt as an alternative for sources of raw cotton. Several medium and small-scale industries began to appear in Bangalore around that time. Cotton mills, cotton gin, and spinning units were set up, and Bangalore became a distributing center for the textile trade in South India. One name that would dominate the textile business and endure till today on MG Road was Messrs. Binny and Co. I think many of us have worn uniforms, many heads nodding, some more heads nodding Binny and Co. in the city. So when the woolen factory was started by Standish Lee in 1875 and it eventually became the Binny Mills in 1886, it preceded a mill culture that added Binny Pet to the city's speciality. 100 years later, Bangalore developed a strong garment export sector that shipped high-quality knits, knitted fabrics, and ready-made garments around the world. Many of us have families who were employed at these mills, and some of us work at these export houses today. In the meantime, the double-sided reversible Bangalore carpets had also become famous. Convicts in the central jail were trained to weave these carpets with Persian and Turkish designs that were then taken to England and sold for the equivalent of 12 rupees a yard. But the Bangalore carpets remain a mystery. They are described in various government documents called the gazetteers as being fair imitations of the English and the Persian, but alas, this important link to our textile industry has become a mystery. I don't know a single house today that has a sample of this carpet or even a photograph. So if you have come across any leads to this, I'm going to take advantage of being here today and ask you to please let me know. Growing up in the cantonment and belonging to a defense family on my grandfather's side and Mysore administration on my grandmother's, I believe the cantonment was essential to Bangalore's early military identity. It is only now that I see that it was perhaps first represented by the mud fort that was built around the market or the Pete during the design of 16th century urban Bengaluru. In the 1600s, it was turned into a Maratha garrison town as a Jagir gifted, as we know, to the military commander Shaji Raje Bhosle by the Bijapur Sultan Ibrahim Adil Shah. The second fort, one gate of which now remains in Kalasipalayam, was reinforced in stone in the 18th century, and the town of Bangalore became a battlefield during the Third Anglo-Mysore War in the Battle for Bengaluru, fought in 1791. Needless to say, being a military town, or let's say a militarized town, moved Bangalore into becoming a site of technology and scientific innovation for over 200 years. Let us always remember and be proud that while the rest of the world was enjoying gunpowder in fireworks in the 18th century, the Mysore rocket would become the pioneers of projectile or rocket technology in the world. It is said that Tipu's rocket workshops in the old city area exploded in the sky, thus giving the area its name, Taramandal, the Sanskrit name for the Milky Way. When a British military station was established here towards the east of the old city, and the Cant, as we call it, came into being, it was where the Bangalore torpedo was designed in 1912. Many of you know this as well. It was used in the beach defenses in Normandy in World War II. In 1905, Bangalore city, not the Cant, was the first to be electrified in India, and the cantonment would follow with street lights in 1908. Old Bangaloreans call the old city city, and the Cant. Today, city is a generic term for all of Bangalore as we know it today. So piped water and electricity supported a vision of modernity for Mysore that emphasized industrialization and technical training. This early emphasis on technical training in industry and technology, the setting up of the IISc, then HAL, ISRO, the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, and many, many other organizations and institutions involved with scientific inquiry and technological advancement. It included NIMHANS, a pioneer of mental health in the country, and supported Bangalore's growth into an aeronautical, aviation, and space technology hub today. Science also impacted the city's spatial identity as it grew towards the northwest around IISc and southeast around the tech corridors. This is where Assistant Surgeon Ronald Ross at Bowring Hospital, then Sir Ronald Ross, wrote up his Nobel Prize-winning thesis on malaria. It is also where Sir C.V. Raman announced his Nobel Prize-winning work at Central College, and countless scientists, too many to name, embarked on other pioneering work. Many of them were and are family members to this audience who might offer us a perspective on growing up with conversations about black holes at the breakfast table. The setting up of public sector industries and tech parks was a few decades away. Today, Bangalore has over 200 engineering colleges, the city's largest technology workforce, and over 25,000 IT companies located here. It's widely considered to have one of the youngest and most dynamic workforces in India, driven by its tag, the Silicon City of India, and it's a hub, as you know, for technology. The city's workforce surpasses 1 million with a high concentration in the 22 to 25 age group. So this is where coffee outlets and co-working spaces incubate the next startup sensations, and any one of those people huddled at a table in a hoodie and white sneakers could be a brilliant futuristic founder. Incidentally, Bangalore's spirit of innovation includes the Rava Idli that was invented by MTR as a response to the rice shortages of World War II. While the Pete and its environment comprised houses, artisan live workspaces, and merchant mansions typical of old cities across India, the British military station was defined by bungalows. The maintenance and preservation of these bungalows must not be attributed only to their owners, but also to a large task force of household help and support staff who occupied the villages on its periphery. Actually, the first theme for this talk that Aditya and I discussed was, what does the bungalow mean to us as Bangaloreans? So I'm including it here more as a question for all of us to mull over and see what it means to you. I have often wondered how the bungalow impacted our personal relationship with space and time. There was enough space for everyone, so we didn't have to fight each other for it. There was no need to push, no jostling, no hustle culture. Even the few multi-housing complexes were marked by large compounds. There were a few bungalows on each road, and therefore everyone was a known neighbor. If we went missing through the day, there was no panic because we would always show up at some house on the street eventually. Small town ethos in a trust-based society. When trees in the garden bore fruit, it induced feverish jam and pickle-making activities. Fewer houses on the street also meant fewer people and very few cars. Since the circumference of both sides, city and cant, were not more than a few miles all around, walking, in my opinion, is another signature Bangalorean trait, as is taking the stairs, since most buildings of my childhood were, as per government directives, not more than 3 to 4 floors high. Hopefully, growing up surrounded by gardens, flowering roundabouts, and tree avenues has given us Bangaloreans a sensitivity to and a love for nature and a sense of slow, unhurried living. Perhaps we also take the abundance of fresh flower stalls in every market for granted and have apoplexies when we have to buy flowers at ridiculous prices in other cities. We were once described by a British soldier of the East India Company as a city of 1,000 lakes. Not many of them remain today, but the bungalows, not many remain either, and two of the largest and most beautiful green spaces to exist in the heart of a city in India, Cubbon Park and Arboretum and Lal Bagh, a botanical garden, earned us the epithet of the Garden City. Story. I'm a Bangalorean because I have a flowering tree calendar that defines the passing of the seasons. The Tabobia rosea in November tells me that Christmas holidays are on the way, and that Tabobia argentea bursts into yellow clouds in March to announce the coming of examinations and summer holidays. The Gulmohar in June told me that it was time to go back to school. Story 2. I moved here from Bombay when I was a child. It initially felt like a huge culture shock. Over time, the city grew on me, and now I can't imagine living anywhere else in India. I think what I identify the most with in Bangalore is the pace of life. Again, mentions of slowness. There's something very comforting about how time seems to move more slowly here. There's always time to appreciate life's smaller joys. For example, taking my dog for a walk in Cubbon Park on a Sunday, going to eat at airlines after, or wrapping up work early so that I can be home in time to have a cup of tea with my mum or catch my favorite TV shows. Another story, KR Road used to be called Thandi Sadak and had some really mighty old trees which were all axed in the 90s as they had become old. In my school, that is East-West, our assembly was held on the canopies of trees, and every other day someone or the other used to be bird hit. That is, had bird shit on them. Today, there are no bird hits as the trees are gone. Every evening, even in summer, when people used to go shopping on the Gandhi Bazaar main road, they used to carry umbrellas. It wasn't the fact that sun rays would be harmful to them or it would rain every evening. They just wanted to be safe from bird hits. Today, you can walk on the same road without being blessed by the birds. A strong floricultural identity makes us India's flower city. We have community identity and festivals that are centered around flowers. How beautiful is that? The Karaga Shakti Utsava of the horticultural Tigala community and the Alsurpu Palaki, meaning flower palanquin in Tamil, are representative of this. Farms around Bangalore are responsible for India's largest flower exports, including our very own Bangalore Red, the rose, that make their way to markets across India and the world. We have the only international flower auction here, situated at Hebbal, and a newspaper reported that this week it auctioned approximately 1 million stems of roses just for Valentine's Day in the domestic market. The importance given to gardens around medical institutions such as Victoria Hospital and NIMHANS has led me to speculate that we were early advocates of green therapy, nature therapy, plant therapy before everybody else fell upon it. So, what influences then could an entire garden city exert on our basic temperament, emotional and physical well-being? What do we understand from the fact that the administrative boundary between the old city and the cantonment comprised a park and a water body, the Sampangi Kere, now the Kantirva Stadium, and Cubbon Park? Urban Bangalore, the fortified 16th century market town, accommodated the presence of large-scale military and cavalry forces, the Maratha Savars, way back in the 1600s when the city was given as a jagir to Shaji Raje Bhonsle. Horses impacted city spatiality and its identity. Many residential bungalows in the station were built with stables, while cavalry regiments influenced how one spent time in Bangalore. Tent pegging, polo playing, pig sticking, and horse racing. Maps show that the 19th century military station had a race course as early as 1803-1804 near the cavalry lines, which is where the command hospital is today. It was then shifted to its present location near the West End Hotel, where one of India's premier racing venues was established in the 1920s. The prestigious Mysore Lancers, that is the Maharaja's Imperial Service Lancers, distinguished themselves at battlefields in Egypt, Mesopotamia, Syria, and Palestine as part of the 15th Cavalry Brigade. Bangalore's equestrian identity is not explored enough and is invisible but omnipresent even today. The military station had several polo grounds, some of which were on empty lake beds. We had a cavalry road and Arab lines on Hosur Road, where my ancestor, the Persian businessman and horse breeder, Agha Ali Asgar, stabled and sold horses to the cavalry regiments in the city administrators, local elite, and the royal stables at Mysuru. These lanes were originally meant for horses and horse carriages, as well as a strong pedestrian culture. They contribute now to its identity of a traffic city. A contributor declares, story, we Bangaloreans always seem to be in a hurry to get somewhere, but we still never arrive on time. Beer and bread. The Kansai, that is the military station where everyone now converges at Church Street on the weekends, was perceived as a decadent, dangerous place with bars, taverns, and dancing halls where men and women danced together on South Parade. Now, MG Road. This catered to, it catered to fast European soldiers. Incidentally, the early 1900s, and I was amazed by this fact, also saw a beer cafe for Bangalore, a beer cafe for women on Brigade Road. It was called the Beer Cafe, and it was only for women so that they didn't have to hang around with those fast European soldiers. Men and women danced together to brass bands. They did the swing and the jive in those dance halls, and they gave rise to India's pub city, jazz yatra city, rock city. Does anyone remember Purple Haze, Downtown, Tavern, Pub World, NASA? Of course, there were some breweries on the Pete boundary at that point in time in the 1800s, and several of these establishments were later brought together by one Thomas Leishman, a beer baron of the Bangalore Brewery, as the United Breweries, with 12 acres of brewery space in Langford Town would later become. This set us off on what was later called the KF culture. This early experience with fermentation sits well within our identity as a biotechnology hub for the city. The Condé Nast Traveler famously refers to us as the beer capital of India, with over 80 microbreweries that serve about 1 million glasses a month. Okay, I'll come to that later. So, the cantonment, where beer had been brewed for soldiers from 1895, was also where English bread, really good bread, was baked for them with imported machines that arrived in the 1800s. This then became a city of adapted bakeries, where European puff pastry techniques were transformed into the Dil Pasand, Dil Khush, spicy khara biscuits, eggless Iyengar bakeries, and of course, our very own veg fuff, egg fuff, and more mutton fuffs. Lives were dedicated to a rock and metal culture that flourished in the city and was actively nurtured by the Culfest that ended with what was then called Western music. The rock and metal bands of the 80s and 90s, Rockcliffe, Rock Crisis, Shiva, Agni, Moksha, and I've got this from all my friends, Kryptos, Beversi, Millennium, second generations like Thermal and a Quarter, Galich Gurus, Jazz City, Mind Snare, Freedom Jam, Autumn Muse. There were also, all festivals dedicated to music. In Bloom at Christ, Chrysalis at Joseph's, Strawberry Fields at NLS, IISC, I think, had a festival, contributed to this culture of rock in the city. Tickets were about 50 to 60 rupees, and venues were indulgent and accommodating. More importantly, they were right in the heart of the city. RSI grounds, Webb's Garage, Bangalore Palace, the university grounds. Permissions were easy, parking was available, crowds were manageable, and came only for the music. Journalist Raghu Karnad writes, and I quote in his 2012 article, City in a Bottle, alcohol printed the city's newspapers, produced its movies, put down hospitals and schools and sports teams, and ruled the men who ruled its people. It caused the worst medical emergencies, sweetened the long evenings, and created the brands to which Bangaloreans feel truest loyalty. Yet, Bangalore's identity as a liquor city has always stayed in the realm of folklore. It has never been recognized in urban histories, only in jokes and in a hazy self image as a town of guzzlers. There was a popular understanding, if you pricked a Bangalorean's veins, and this is me, not Raghu, there was a popular understanding that if you pricked a Bangalorean's veins, you would get beer, not blood. This was an urban legend at the time. What do we make of our time immersed in the city's theatre culture, movie watching culture, and our movie districts? KG Road for Kannada films, MG Road for English films, and Alsur, Naga, Lakshmi, Shri, Lavanya for Tamil films. We also have a book reading culture, very strong one, and a book district. Today we can walk this circuit from Bube to Blossoms, Bookworm, Book Hive, Select Bookstore on Brigade Road, and down to Sapna Book House. But once upon a time, book lovers also cut their milk teeth on Premier Bookstore, Gangaram's on MG Road, one of my favorite haunts, Mecca Stores, the first used bookstore in the city on OPH Road, and of course Strand Bookstore at Manipal Center, where Vidya Shanbag knew us personally and helped us pick out books we liked. These were dutifully carried to Victoria Hotel and read under a rain tree through brunch, lunch, tea, and sundowners, and then dinner. Some quotes. The Bangalore I grew up experiencing was always cool, and this was not just the weather, the beautiful gardens, lush foliage, and open spaces, but also its identity as a city. It was happening with a fresh cosmopolitan vibe, but its values, traditions, and intrinsic culture, though constantly evolving, remain the same. Another story. In the Bangalore without cell phones and pagers, circa 1980 to 1995, all one had to do was take a short drive and know exactly where friends were hanging out. You'd find them at Knockout, at Blue Fox, or time and again. We knew cars by colors and number plates because there were so few, and we knew exactly who would be in them and where they were headed. It was a time when everyone knew everyone. Well, almost. Everyone, next story, in my family learned to drive on the avenue at the Vidhan Sauda. Traffic constables usually went off duty around 8:30 p.m. and often hitched a ride with us home to their quarters at Yelahanka. Most got a drop to Makery Circle where I lived on the way from St. Joseph's Evening College via MG Road, Raj Bhavan Road, Palace Road, and on the way they became friends with names. In return, as a favor, they stopped traffic when they saw my Jeep approaching their intersections during the day. Incredibly, they would hold up small roundels with stop painted on them when they saw me. You see, there were no traffic signals back then. And finally, the city with a heart. Following the Rendition Act of 1881, where the administration of Mysore reverted to the Maharaja, local entrepreneurship was actively encouraged, and city businessmen of all communities responded by making generous contributions to city building. Of course, we pioneered the beginnings of democracy with the Mysore Legislative Council and several other attempts at including Mysore's population in the administrative and processes and governance, pioneering for the time. But city businessmen built educational institutions, hostels for students, jewelries and chatrams for the community. They set up dispensaries and healthcare facilities. They donated generously to medical infrastructure, dispensaries and hospital wards, established parks and playgrounds. So much so that Money Control wrote in 2023 that Bangalore is the city with the largest number of Indian philanthropists in the country. Please. And it ranks third on Hurun's top philanthropist list of 2023, accounting for 11% of the millionaires and billionaires on it. Mumbai topped the list with 33% of the philanthropists, followed by Delhi at 16%. But Nikhil Kamath, India's youngest billionaire, youngest philanthropist, and youngest Indian pledger for the Giving Pledge, founded by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, made up of members who contribute a majority of their wealth to philanthropic causes, is also a resident of this city. The recently concluded Bangalore Habba positions Bangalore as a city with a heart. And I say this with gratitude, quite incredibly, because the events are offered to the city for free. Thanks to city businesses and corporate institutions who stepped forward as patrons. This is who we are. And while we grapple with all the other things that the city means to us today, its challenges and its pain points, perhaps we could look to the past to understand our present and point us towards the future. I'd like to read out this quote from Fran Tonkis, who works in the urban space, in her book Space, the City and Social Theory, Social Relations and Urban Forms. Urban forms are not made out of materials and things, but out of meanings, language, and symbols. It can be relatively easy to knock down a building, but it is much harder to demolish a space which is composed around memory, experience, or imagination. And finally, I will end with two stories that sum up the city for me. The first is called A Bengaluru Love Story. I moved to Bengaluru from Delhi after leaving my job as a graphic designer with Tehelka.com, which was under severe strain from the Bangaru Lakshman bribery sting. My parents were here staying in a guest house owned by the indomitable Bhushan Oberoi and his lovely wife, Benjamin, who gave Bengaluru its coolest eatery, Casa Piccola. I knew just one friend in Bangalore, and he introduced me to Koshi's, the wonderful coffee house on St. Mark's Road. Here I sat for hours measuring out sugar from the silver sugar bowl, eating smileys, reading and meeting so many new people, artists, writers, poets, activists, and among them the brilliant photographer Raghav Shreyas. He introduced me to a young man who was in a Tai Chi class when I expressed an interest in the subject. I remember sitting in Koshi's that evening and falling in love. Among the clatter of dishes and smoke curling from the many cigarettes that were de rigueur then, needless to say, he and I went to the Tai Chi class held every morning at the Spastic Society in Indranagar, where among elegant moves like white crane spreads its wings and embraced the tiger and returned to mountain, we found ourselves and each other. Our courtship encompassed so many of Bangalore's gentle spaces. A bench in Cubbon Park amongst the tabobia and clicking bamboos, a steaming dosa breakfast at MTR early in the morning, a walk in Lalbagh where flaming gulmohar trees lined our path and enormous fish jumped clear out of the water for breadcrumbs, drinking ourselves into helpless laughter at noon wines, buying paints in Avenue Road, tasting different chutney puris in Malleshwaram, eating pie at Max Miller Bhavan where the hostess would scare away monkeys with her trusty slingshot, and of course Koshi's every evening. We married soon and moved to Bombay as jobs dictated. We barely lasted 2 years and moved back to Bangalore as soon as we could. Raghav had tragically passed away from a brain tumor. His parting gift to us was an incredible photograph he had taken of us posing joyfully just a few days after our wedding. I love that I'm a Bangalorean. It may not be my childhood or my youth, but it is the city of my adulthood, of my marriage, my motherhood, and my seamless belonging to a different culture and space in the truest sense of the word. I'm so happy to have our daughter grow up here. And the last story is called Sir. The word Sir keeps Bengaluru moving. If you boarded a 222A and said, Jaga Kodi, chances are that the only jaga you will get is that loosely held third step pedestal at the exit. However, a Sir, Jaga Kortira, will probably earn you a respectable bit of space among fellow commuters to Majestic. In my decade and a half in Bangalore, I have exchanged my fair bit of sirs, right from venture capitalists to vegetable vendors. Sir, Vandu Masale will ensure that your dosa is 2 degrees warmer and 2 units crispier. Sir, Arda kg Iruli will ensure that you get the latest batch of onions and at 50 paisa cheaper per kg. This free give and take of a respect currency, regardless of your bank balance and social status, in my opinion, makes us all Bangaloreans. It also makes us a little more human. Thank you.
Aliyeh, thank you. That was beautiful. It was really a love letter to Bangalore. I have goose flesh. Before we go into the Q&A and responses, I'm totally stressed out as the organizer. I can see how stuffy some of you have felt. But I want to say I have two problems or challenges. One is we don't want to do registrations, so we don't shut out guests. It's not a Bangalore thing. And the other thing is the challenge with working with a heritage property like this. But we'll do better next time, maybe more air conditioning. So my personal apologies to everyone who's standing and sweating. But I think Aliyeh's talk was well worth it.
Thank you. Thank you.
The house is open. We'll have a mic reach you as you raise your hand. Yeah, Sunil. One sec, Sunil.
So, Aliyeh, I'm Sunil Pichamutu. So, you had
Nice to
spoken
meet you,
about the central jail carpet. So,
Yes.
I found a black and white photo actually, which I colorized with the AI.
Really?
So, this is.
Can I just connect with you and
Sure.
take a look at it?
Some of the others who came for one of my walks on Palace Road have seen it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll just bring a mic to you. Deepak, I'll mic in there.
Actually, I just wanted to say before you all ask questions that Aditya and I also decided that, a Q&A would be like a really formal thing for today. So it's not just questions to me, but if you have very short stories to share about why you are a Bangalorean and you didn't send it in to us, please feel free to share it with everybody in this hall.
I just have a question from your research perspective. Did you get a chance to come to know something about matcha in Bangalore?
About?
Matcha in Bangalore. Is it a Bangalorean thing, or it looks like a Tamil version of it? Because you spoke a lot of fun things about Bangalore, like Sir, Beversi and all that. I would really interested to know, did you get a chance to look something on matcha?
No, I have not come across anything on the origins of matcha, but I've grown up,
But you remember?
I've grown up listening to it. I think it's also it's an older, more, sorry? Prithvi says it's an Alsur thing. I also think it's the older equivalent of dude. And does anybody have anything to share about the origins, the etymological origins of matcha? Tamil, yeah, but where did it? Oh, it's borrowed from Chennai. Okay, I have a feeling that all those Chennai boys in the 90s who would jump into a car on Friday night and come to Bangalore to drink beer on the weekend, and then drive back on a Sunday night and go to college on Monday morning must have brought it in.
It was Bangalore's idea of matcha.
Sorry? Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
you have to decide. Yeah, are you matcha or matcha?
CN has a question.
Aliyeh, not a question, but just to share an experience which I think you missed out. I'm basically a city boy who integrated with the Kant side because I went to school in the Kant side. So I have experiences both in the city and the Kant. I think one significant thing that you missed out, perhaps wasn't shared with you, is there's a huge culture of music, the traditional music in the city side, especially Carnatic music. There's also a culture of very good drama and local literature, whether it's, Kannada or whatever it is. You missed out that part of it because some of us grew up experiencing that while we were living in the city area, but still we integrated with the Kant area. So
Yes.
like I said, tell my friends, I'm part of both places. So I think you missed out that bit of it. Or maybe people didn't share that experience with you.
Yeah, I think they didn't also, Mr. Kumar, because this is, local literature is very much a part of cities across India. We all have very strong vernacular language traditions as well as music and dance. Having said that, yes, it is a part of city culture. It's also connected to city identity. And I think what is interesting in theatre also is, like Vijay has often told us, is the integration, I think, which was unique to Bangalore between Kannada theatre and English theatre, where there was crossovers. People from here also performed and worked on both sides, which I think that severe classification between the two did not exist. So I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Veena has.
Can you also please share your names as you ask questions, because we're all city folk here today?
Yeah. Yeah, hi, Anil. I just thank you for throwing open the question for those who didn't write into you earlier. My bad. What I wanted to share with you was, I was sharing with my neighbor here. You know, we are old Bangaloreans, and that is a brand in itself. I remember being so shocked. I really was shocked when I was walking in Indiranagar, and there was one of the newcomers to Bangalore, a young 20-something, who actually looked at me and said, "Who are you?" That shocked me, because in Bangalore, we never, ever had to explain who we are. Our faces were our passports. I remember walking into Rex Theatre every Thursday afternoon, one French, and getting tickets just because, they knew us. We didn't have to book, they just knew who we were. We walked into Gangaram's and, the book that we wanted and we asked for 10 days ago was there.
Yeah.
No booking, no paperwork, nothing.
Yeah, I think Mr. Atmaram is in the crowd today.
Here he is. Mr.
I grew up in Gangaram's.
Oh, gift for Aliyeh. Let's pass it on.
Thank you.
Why don't I ask you, sir, to come on stage and present the project? Better? That's being Bangalorean. Yeah. Now, yeah. I'll just come to you.
Hi, Aliyeh. What a lovely story you told today. And I'm Naomi Junaid. I arrived in Bangalore in 1999. Very staunch Madrasi, horrified at the lack of intellectual crowd in Bangalore, but now I clearly have found it. And I must tell you, Bangalore grew on me. When I was younger, I was very secular. I thought I was a world citizen, whatever that means. But in Bangalore is where I grew to accept my identity as an Indian Muslim. And Bangalore is very accepting of people and their diverse identities. And it's a place where I grew to be, where I can be, you can just be what you want to be. Bangaloreans are so humble despite their magnificent achievements. The Bangalore people are just amazing, and I think the thing that I think would, if I were to say it in 2 words, is Swalpa just marry, and they always do.
Thank you, Naomi.
And thank you, Bangalore, for accepting everyone that comes with such open arms. Bangalore is truly magnificent.
Prem has a question in the first row, and then, yeah, we'll just come to you 1 second, and then Sangeeta will come to you. First row.
That's different. I'm Prem Chandavakar, and this is a sharing since you invited, not a question. And it's tied to your observation about the old Bangaloreanism of locating places as being on the backside of somewhere. And when our family's home was constructed in 1953, and it was on Palace Cross Road, which is on the edge of the southern edge of the palace grounds. And it was described then by someone saying, the Chandavakars have built a very nice house on the Maharaja's backside.
Sangeeta has a question. Deepa Kili, second row. I'll come to you. And Rohit, I'll come to you in a bit.
I remember about 60 years back when we stayed at Brigade Road, and we would go to Majestic to watch Hindi movies. And my mother after lunch would say, "You guys stop the bus till I put my sari and come." and the conductor and the driver would really wait for 15-20 minutes for my mother to put a sari and come.
Like waiting for the, like Like Harry's story about the policeman waiting for him at Vidhan Sauda. Were you here when I told that? Yeah, that's him.
These are all Paul Fernandez illustrations, aren't
Yes,
they?
completely.
Yeah, one
In
side.
fact, if I may just very quickly insert another story, we got so many stories, and I've been collecting these, like I told you, as part of it's an oral history project, collecting stories of the city. One story was that a friend's father lived in Bangalore East, and they weren't allowed to go to the to South Parade. And he said that, when not Moses, but when the Ten Commandments was playing at Plaza, which is again a very iconic space in the city, we were not allowed to go. So my brother and I cooked up this scheme. We had a temple opposite our house. So we would go there and we bought one ticket at Plaza, and I would leave my slippers outside the temple to show my grandmother that I was inside. And then I would go to Plaza to watch the first half of the film. Then he would take the ticket and watch the second half and leave his slippers outside the temple. And then the next day, we would buy another ticket and we would see the half that we had missed. Because like I said, that South Parade and MG Road was like, absolutely, your reputation would be ruined if you were seen lolling, loitering and lingering there.
This is Krishna here. Being an old Catonian in Bangalore from the early 80s, I remember my memory of looking at films. The Rajkumar movies that would be there, the Rajni movies. There used to be a huge fan following, bursting crackers and things like that. And if I see Bangalore today, it's all about RCB. You've got such a huge passion which is there. So Bangalore has this very incredible way of celebrating something unique. So what is your opinion about that?
Personally, I feel that what you're talking about, celebrating something that is unique, comes from, and this is just my opinion, it still comes from the small town ethos. I feel that we are still, small town in our hearts. We've grown into a big city overnight. Of course, we haven't got a metropolitan status yet, and I think that that will be some time coming. But in the meantime, this idea of celebration, of getting together, celebration needs community, comes from our early beginnings as a small town, where we can actually get people to share that celebration of that uniqueness with us. I have not talked about modern Bangalore because that gets included in the sporting culture and everything else, and it's a very new identity. I've been trying from all the inputs that came in to trace historically where who we are today might have come from in the past.
Rohit, and then I'll come to you, Ma'am.
Thanks for the beautiful talk. I don't have a question. I just want to add on. I'm just sitting here in front of you. I'm here. All right. So you beautifully touched upon Martin Heidegger in terms of Dyson analysis and existential problems that one goes through. I also heard a little bit of T.S. Eliot Wasteland.
Sorry?
The T.S. Eliot Wasteland, the memory end of the day. So thanks for that. Really, really beautiful. I think what I've learned in Bangalore is love. I fell in love with the city. I follow Jesus Christ. I have Sabbath practices. I'm a Hindu. But I always carry the cross. Some people call me mad, but I don't care. And it's Valentine's Day, so I love you all. All right? Love each other. Love yourself. I'm very hippie at heart. I'm a musician, poet. Aditya knows about me, illustrator, etc. I don't feel that Bangalore is an IT city. Bangalore is a place for pilgrimage. And you can see the sheer number of Devi temples here. I just went to Dharmaraya temple in the morning. I go to Patalamban temple, folk deities. I have books which have covered by reverends, British reverends on folk deities of India, especially the Bangalore folk deities. Church, St. Patrick's, and host of other places, So this is a religious place. It's It's a holy city. There's something magnetic in the red soil of this city, something really magnetic. Even if I go out, I went to Pune, I went to Bombay, it yo-yos me back like a magnet. I come back. Maybe the Devi calls me, right? And I think that I would like to name some people who have really made it worthwhile for me to exist in this chaotic IT city. Aditya, Prem Koshi, Akumal Ramchandar, Pradeep Sebastian, Ranjit Chettur. They are absolutely amazing people to talk to at Koshi's. Koshi's to me is like an existential French cafe, like an Albert Camus or Jean-Paul Sartre would go. So it's an amazing place. I just wanted to end with saying, please love each other. We need more love and less hate. Be hippie, be loving, and that's all. God loves you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this evening. I only wish there was a photograph of your father.
It's right here.
Where? Okay, I'll
Take a
get
look.
there
In
and
fact,
see.
sorry to cut you off, but there are photographs of his early days.
Oh, lovely. I never went to that section.
So
Lovely. I'll go there. Thank you so much. It's just an old Bangalore memory. We talk about the traffic today, but I come from a time in the 60s when there were just a couple hundred cars in Bangalore and there were no traffic lights. There were just these halt and proceed boards. You remember it? And, halt and proceed boards which everybody would, halt and proceed. So I just, today when I see the traffic, I always think of that.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
A lot of chairs have opened out, so please feel free to sit down. Some are just now.
Hello, Aliyeh.
Hi.
This is
Good evening, sir.
From Harvard. I keep returning to Bangalore because my grandmother grew up in an orphanage here. This city looked after my Nani Ma when there was no one for her. Over the years, I have been returning to Bangalore to live the tales that Nani Ma told me. She would tell me of a lake where now we have the majestic bus stand. My question to you is, for those of us who get stuck in nostalgia, do we lose out on everything that present day Bangalore has to offer for us? Mr. Koshi is here and he just left. He just left. So he tells me that Bangalore is still in its infancy, whereas I get stuck in the past because of my attachment to my Nani. So does nostalgia come in the way of we enjoying and experiencing present day Bangalore? Thank you very much, and this is a wonderful way of celebrating Valentine's Day.
Thank you. So, actually, I have 3 responses to very quickly to what everybody said. First, to you, nostalgia is on the sadness spectrum, and so we need to explore why we are nostalgic about something. And I also read today while I was just putting the talk together that the young look to the future. But sometimes when we feel that we are not in control of our present, and as we get older, we tend to look to the past to hold on to it. And like I said earlier, when I am asked whether I'm anti-change, I'm very clear that I'm not. There's a big difference I also feel between progress and development. And as people of this city, it would be wonderful if we were consulted and who the city is would be taken into consideration when we are defining its new directions. Why the past is important, which is also nostalgia, I'm going to address, and I have done this before and I will keep saying it repeatedly. My answer is located in neurology. So if you look at it, neurology, psychology. So what is familiar is soothing for the nervous system. And change, which is dynamism, stimulates the brain. But if we have too much change, then we are constantly in a state of stimulation and we do not come to rest. And resting, or the feeling of settling, of rooting, comes from even something as simple as routine, knowing that we will turn the corner and see that tree. So that predictive nature of a city, that is the familiar and the routine, is very essential to our sense of equilibrium. And like I said just now, too much change, not good for the nervous system. And so I'm just going to leave that with you. In answer to Rohit, who's left, I agree. I had only an hour, but there are so many aspects of city identity, and I personally believe Bangalore is a feminine city. Because if you look at the origin myths of the city, you have Dodamma who throws her earring into the river so that Rana Bairegowda and his family can come safely to Avati. You have Lakshmamma who jumps off as a pregnant woman with a child so that the gate of the fort of Bangalore will be built. Women were very essential in the myths to the founding of the city. And like he said, there are Devi shrines more than I've ever seen in any other city in Bangalore. And therefore, I'd like to think that we are protected every day by the fierce feminine.
Thanks, Aliyeh. We have 2 questions here, then I'll come to Shiva and Prithvi. Sama?
Hi, my name is
Sama.
Sama.
Hi.
So we moved back to Bangalore around 2011 or so, and my wife was from Bombay. Said, we'll move back on the condition that you do not talk about that tree that was there, that building that was there. But I had 2 related questions. One was about, I grew up on Broadway Road in an old stone house, which is now, I think, the office of a deputy commissioner or something. It was there for a long time. They tore it down, I think, around 5 years ago or something. Do you have any insight on the eclipse of stone? Was it stopped being used as a building material because of the cost, or the masons who handled it? Because a lot of old houses when I was a kid, I remember, were stone. The second question is about rain trees. The rain trees for me, then more than anything else, have defined Bangalore. And we all grown up with those rain tree tunnels. I think RV Road had one fantastic one before it was cut down. And we still live at the end of one near Sir Ismail Said Mosque on Mosque Road. But I noticed that I can't find any new rain trees planted anywhere. I wonder if you have any insights on that. Is that a fact, or am I just imagining it?
No, it's a fact. They take time to grow, and to answer the second question first, they take time to grow. Are there any ecologists in the group here today who'd like to take that question? So they take time to grow and to be visible. So from a government point of view, we need quicker growing trees.
Not an ecologist, but as someone that's done some research on this, it's become a government policy over the years to not plant because it takes a lot of space.
Yeah, it's an issue of space and time as well. The first question was about stone. I think the buildings that came about in the early 1800s and the late 1800s and the early 1900s used stone because fundamentally it was a material that was very widely available around Bangalore. And I can go on about what the city means, but I think that the hills around Bangalore, even though they're far away from Bangalore, are very essential to Bangalore's identity because they were the first natural defense system here. So I was told by an architect, Mr. Chandavakar, would you be able to help me with this, that it was called Mysore gold, that stone, that dressed stone that a lot of public buildings were made of. Are there any architects who can corroborate this in the room? And huge manpower. Yeah, so manpower was one, easily available was the other. And also, I think for public architecture at that point in time, it sort of created a unified language and look and feel as well.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Varada. I feel that Bangalore is a charm of its own and it's a city of senses. It's so difficult to explain to my peers from other cities when they ask, what do you guys do to chill in Bangalore? Because it's such a Bangalorean thing. We get to chill in so many places, and Google is not any helpful either when it comes to that. So I think the way it plays with our senses is great. And just an input for anyone that asks you this question, I think KSTDC has started a new double-decker open roof bus, and that's a wonderful way to enjoy the traffic as well. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you for that wonderful journey you took us through. I'm here.
Near the door? Near the door?
Ah, hi.
Thank you for that wonderful journey you took
Welcome.
us through. Just to add to the food scene, I think everyone should try Nagrat Meat. It's been there since ages.
Yes.
And the most famous thing is there is Bath Dosa, where they put chitranna inside the dosa and this.
Yeah, I went last month actually, and it's still the
And
same.
of course, Cassiopea Cola, I literally like said, wow, and my wife also was like, why are you gasping when you mentioned Cassiopea Cola? That's very close to our hearts. And of course, I think Tandoor still survives. Then there was Caesars on MG Road, which is very close to our hearts, and I'm sure many seniors can relate to that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shiva. Rizvi in the second row. Yeah, and we come to you at the back. Yeah, and then it's you up.
Mike.
I'm here with the Mike. Prithvi, 1 second. Mike out.
Hi, Aliyeh, lovely talk. I could kind of relate to everything you were talking about, but I have an 18-year-old who couldn't. And I was looking at her and she had no clue about the Bangalore you were talking about. Difficult topic on Valentine's Day. Do you think Bangalore is becoming everyone's girlfriend and no one wants to choose Bangalore as a life partner because nobody is owning this city? I mean, because today the change is good. I think a lot has changed and we should welcome that kind of change. But do Bangaloreans really treat Bangalore like a life partner, not just a girlfriend?
I think as far as life partners are concerned, many of us are married to the city. But I think to answer on the same level, when I worked at Janagraha, we had to do a survey about an online portal that we were going to start, and some very interesting facts came up. It said that local populations are connected to issues, and migratory or migrant transient populations are connected to causes. So a cause is mobile, an issue is located, it's very grounded. So therefore, if you look at even online activism, to garner people around an issue is very hard, because whether we have tree cutting or groundwater depletion, someone who's coming in for a year or two doesn't care. But they are the ones online, you see, because the majority of the population that we can reach out to online is not, more or less, not from the city. So there is this little push-pull that happens about who would actually care for the city. And therefore, I think there are many people in the city who are working in the area of engagement. You know, hats off to everybody who takes a heritage tour or who talks about the city, because, like I said earlier, engagement builds context, value, and meaning. And maybe if we care for it a little bit, we'll stand up for it. But how many of you, let me just take that question forward, are married to the city? Oh my goodness, that's almost the entire room. Sorry? Okay. So yeah, I think that, yeah, and how many of you think it's a girlfriend? Beyond this group? No, I understand. And see, an 18-year, I don't see too many 18-year-olds here today, because I think most of the lectures earlier have been interpreting the city from the past to the present as well. So I think the 18-year-old has a very different experience of the city.
There's a question at the back.
Sorry? Yes, absolutely. And like I said, change is good because we need that stimulation, but it's change that has to be with our consent. And for younger populations, again, my personal opinion, they will move because they live in the internet age. We were in a pre-liberalized India, we were pre-in IT, we were pre-technology, so we really didn't know even more or less what was happening in Delhi, leave alone, Chicago. So they can move, therefore they will move. But they will come back, like Naipaul says, they will come back, man, they will come back.
Aliyeh, can we take a couple of more questions?
Yeah,
Is that
sure.
okay with you?
Is
Yeah,
everybody okay to stay?
Yeah, great. So 1 second, we have a question at the back. Would you like to ask one as well? We'll come to you, and then Shama auntie.
Hi Aliyeh, thank you for
Hi, Ravi.
wonderful 2 hours. I always wanted to sit through some of your lectures, and I got to sit through this as luck would have it. Well, I'm somebody who moved to Bangalore in 2014, and before that I've lived in 2 different towns and another city. And right now I live elsewhere, but I still very proudly tell everybody that Bangalore is my chosen home. And there are reasons why I call it the way I call it. Well, I just want to ask you as a historian, as somebody who's noticed Bangalore evolve, what would be your take on what we call as Bangalore DNA? Which is very unique to Bangalore. I have my own theory, but I would love to know from you.
I think if there's one quality that actually represented Bangalore, it is that sense of slowness. And I don't mean slowness in a literal way, I mean slowness in a larger way about our approach to life, to people. Slowness as an investing in meaning more than anything else. What is your take?
Deepak, mic.
For me, I think Bangalore lets me be who I am, and I've always told this to people who do not live in Bangalore, that it's more of a plug-and-play city, and it's a beautiful city, especially for, I think, a single set of women who moved from elsewhere. I think it just makes me feel very safe, it makes me feel very protected, and I don't have to pretend to be anybody else at all, but just be myself. There aren't many cities in India, there aren't many places that I can say that. I mean, I've traveled quite wide and deep everywhere, and there aren't many places I can have that feeling, or perhaps Bangalore is the only city which sort of evokes that feeling in me. So
I'm happy to hear you say that, yeah.
Yes. Question here, and then Shama. Deepak,
Yeah, hi Aliyeh. I came from Delhi, which is a city of migrants. So a city which doesn't have much pride in itself. And when I came to Bangalore, I saw that it was a city which was very proud of itself. But over the years, I've seen, and a lot of Bangaloreans are going to kill me for this, but it is Bangalore people who sold Bangalore in a way. And when you talk about change, that's very fast, and we see that the city has been under construction now for 20 plus years, and there's constant change. And I have been really thinking about this, that what is it that makes people, because as you know, I'm really interested in documenting and chronicling and engaging with my community. And this, it feels very difficult to get people to understand that unless they get up and do something about it, they're going to lose what little is left of their city. And all is not lost. Not everything, but a lot can be retrieved by just standing up for it. So what do you think would bring back that sense? Because there's no point living in nostalgia. It's nice to think about it, but there has to be something to bring back that beauty back into Bangalore. So what do you think will help in doing that?
I think that's related to Prithvi's question and statement as well. And perhaps at a foundation level, we need to be dedicated to building communities. We don't have enough communities that center around alignment with each other. We still operate very much as individuals. I think perhaps the traffic and distances have also given us very little time away from our daily preoccupations, but fundamentally, I think what we have to restore is a sense of community or different communities as well. I also wanted to add to what Bhargavi said very quickly that when I was, my editor from Lonely Planet, Primrose, was visiting Bangalore and she was writing this article on 32 city secrets. This was before everybody on social media wanted to discover the city for others. So, at the end of a week, I asked her what she thought of Bangalore because she was taken around the city by different travel writers. And she said, I think you all are mad. And I said, that's harsh, like, why? And she said, no, I don't mean mad as in, insane. I just mean that in this 1 week, I met so many people who have left their full-time jobs to follow their heart or their passion. So they are organic farming, there's rooftop gardening, there's something, bird protection, there's snake catching, there's something else, and everybody had this fire, this evangelical zeal in their eyes about what they believe in. And more than that, she said, this can't happen in Bombay and Delhi because the city doesn't allow you to fall off the grid. In Bangalore, you can fall off the grid, you can follow your heart, she said, and you will find your people.
Shama. Hi. Good evening, Aliyeh. When
Hi,
you
good
asked
evening.
how many of us are married to Bangalore, I'll give you a little short story. My grandfather came and settled here. He was a Maharashtrian, married to a Bengali, came and settled here almost 100 years ago. So my father and all his siblings literally, practically grew up here. And he was in service, my father, and finally when I was about 13 years old, he came back to Bangalore to serve the city. And so I had my school, college, masters, all here. And then of course I fell in love. And when I was proposed to, before I said yes, I said, you have to promise me one thing, that when you retire, we're going to come back to Bangalore and not go back to Delhi. And I said, that's the only way I'm going to say yes. So as soon as he retired, much before he retired, we were back at home. But I cannot think of living anywhere else.
Thank you.
And Inder uncle was true to his word, wasn't he? Yeah, a question at the back. Maybe just one more question. Yeah, sure. Here and then Ravina.
Hi. Not a question, but just a bit of sharing. We came here in 1990 from Delhi, and soon after that, I had found a phrase with which I would introduce myself. I would say I'm North Indian by birth, but South Indian by choice. And that's how belonged I felt to Bangalore or being here. Another icon that I miss is Nilgiris. So I just wanted to add that. Yeah, thank you.
We miss it too.
Hi, I'm Kashmira Kanpur. I'm also a Bangalorean, thoroughly married to Bangalore. Born here, lived here, fluent English. What I really miss of Bangalore are the picnic spots. Is there anywhere where we can go to, where we can have a picnic besides going to a resort and having a picnic? I mean, nowadays, if we choose to go for a picnic, we are taken to resorts. We have to think of resorts. So that's something that I really miss in Bangalore.
Yes, I agree with you because I think a lot of us have memories of picnics, actually cooking in Lal Bagh and Cubbon Park, making khichdi and going as a family. But now if you look at public spaces also in the city, they're all fenced. And when we were working on the signage for Cubbon Park, we did when we were sort of like mapping the entire park, we realized that the rules in public spaces tell you more about what not to do than what to do. So don't sit on the grass, don't pluck the flowers, don't climb a tree, don't look into the pond, don't go to the park, period. So picnics would be tough within city limits. Yes.
And as we're used to in the family, my sister must
Yes.
have the last word.
No, this isn't a question. This isn't a question. Just sharing something about my past, our past actually. So we lived in Kumara Park that side. So So I was sent to school walking cut through the golf course to Sophia's and come back walking and go to Bharati Vidya Bhavan to learn Bharatanatyam and all that. So our treat, of course, Aditya was like a little baby, he was 11.5 years younger to me. So my mother and my dad would treat us and take us for a picnic. Like she just said, picnics in Bangalore is a great thing. And now, where we used to go for the picnic is where I'm living. So Bangalore has expanded so much, but I still love it.
Thank you for sharing.
And my sister has just invited all of you for your next picnic too.
In fact, Bangalore's picnic culture is mentioned in the early 1800s by John Blakiston, who designed the Bangalore cantonment. And he talks a lot about how people love to go on picnics and spend the entire day and sometimes overnight in tents as well on the outskirts of the city.
Aliyeh, thank you. Please
Thank
show
you,
your
Aditya.
appreciation.
Thank you all. Happy Valentine's Day and a continued love for the city. And again, thank you, Aditya. And thank you, everyone, for being here on your Saturday evening.
Aliyeh, please stay on for 1 second longer. Can I ask my niece Ria and her husband David to please come on stage and present you with a memento and a gift that my sister has put together.
I think the memento's here. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. You've been terrific. Thank you to Kothari Hall, Dilnawaz ma'am, Shankarama, and everyone who's supported us. Have a beautiful evening. Thank you.